Well, let me clarify first, because it's proxy season, right? No CEO do you just put the base pay in there. You put their bonus, you put their stock options, you put everything. Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the number one pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's comparisons to the men. Those men's leagues are 75 to 120 years old. We're tipping off our 28th season. I would say if you looked at them 28 seasons in, we're further ahead. But I realize we still have a lot of work to do, and it's all about the ecosystem.
The WNBA's leadership recently entered a state of sheer panic, sparked by circumstances almost unbelievably illogical. While Caitlin Clark is busy constructing a sprawling business empire, the league itself is still struggling to justify paying her less than many entry-level professionals. Now, reports indicate the commissioner is seeking the intervention of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. This situation truly transcends the ordinary. In your opinion, is the WNBA commissioner prioritizing the league's welfare or simply her own position? Share your candid thoughts below. Let's delve into the figure that sent shockwaves across the internet.
I was making $3.1 million a year in college. What are you talking about? He's like, yo, don't act like you're doing me a favor. First of all, Ice Cube and them offered me $5 million for 10 weeks. I told them no, then they came back for $15 million. Me, what I would have been doing. I would have grabbed that and waited till next year. I'm trying to bring awareness to women's basketball, taking a wild pay cut. When you think about, let's just say $5 million for 10 weeks, $78,000 for a whole WNBA season, or $15 million for 10 weeks. What is the commissioner talking about? What year you think this is? I was making 3.1 in college. I got a $28 million deal with Nike. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Secondly, I don't know this for a fact because I haven't done the due diligence on this, but I can imagine how the ratings dropped since Caitlin Clark has been hurt. Because she was hurt the last month or two or however long it was before the season. I was even upset because the Fever actually made it to the semifinals, and Caitlin Clark wasn't playing. Imagine this murder. Now, mind you, this is her second year. Her team makes it to the semifinals. What them ratings would have.
Yeah.
Did you know that? But I'm saying, not even being funny. Did you know the Fever was in the semifinals?
No.
Exactly, but I bet
Caitlin wasn't playing.
Exactly. If Caitlin was playing, you would have known that the Fever was in the semifinals. So, yo, I would be like, yo, if I'm Caitlin Clark, yo, you need to come see me.
She actually make the league hot. As much as people like to argue about it, she's what's bringing the eyeballs. I know that people are gonna hate that take, but it's the truth. It's like she's bringing the viewers along with everybody else, but they're coming to see her either win or fail, and that's what's bringing motivating a lot of the interest.
Just want to add a stat really quick to back up what you guys are saying. So it was reported that the WNBA viewership went down 55% since her injury, and even for the Fever's national TV games, it was at 1.8 million average viewers, and it went down to about 850,000. So
so you can feel how you want to feel about her. You can feel how you want to feel. 55% is a lot.
Caitlin Clark's compensation for her inaugural WNBA season stood at a mere $76,535, a figure so astonishing it bears repeating. This is the officially confirmed amount for the nation's most talked-about athlete, a player single-handedly responsible for tripling women's college basketball viewership, filling arenas nationwide, and whose draft day jersey sales surpassed any athlete in any sport. She transformed a struggling league into a mainstream sensation overnight, all for $76,000. Contrast this with the last pick in the NBA draft, often a player obscure to most fans, who pockets over $1 million annually. Clark's first-year earnings were less than many accountants or mid-level office managers, individuals who have never commanded an audience of 17,000 for their work. The public's reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Every major sports program, news outlet, and social media platform echoed the same incredulous question: how could this possibly be? Even the U.S. president publicly commented, asserting that women were not receiving equitable pay. When discussions reach such high levels, it's clear the league faces a profound crisis, and Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's subsequent media tour only exacerbated the situation. Instead of addressing the salary discrepancy directly, she repeatedly steered the conversation towards charter flights. While the league's provision of charter flights was a much-needed improvement, Engelbert's constant deflection to them in response to Clark's $76,000 salary questions came across precisely as one would expect, akin to someone demanding an explanation for their burning house and being told their garden hose was recently upgraded. She appeared on prominent networks, armed with talking points, seemingly crafted to evade the primary issue, emphasizing marketing deals, player benefits, and league growth initiatives. Her delivery conveyed the distinct impression of someone incensed that the public dared to peer behind the curtain. Critics labeled it a peculiar outburst from a powerful executive caught off guard, a description difficult to dispute. The strategy backfired completely. By refusing to acknowledge the core problem, Engelbert made the league appear not just financially tight-fisted, but unrepentant about it. The public dismissed the spin, observing a league that had acquired the greatest star in sports history, yet responded to pay inquiries by discussing airplane seating. Crucially, Engelbert was most desperate to avoid acknowledging that Clark's WNBA salary held virtually no bearing on her actual financial life, a reality that cast the league in an even more unfavorable light. Even before playing a single WNBA game, Clark had already secured an endorsement deal with Nike, reportedly valued at $28 million over 8 years, including her own signature shoe, an honor reserved for only the most elite global athletes. Following this, Gatorade, State Farm, and Panini eagerly enlisted her as the face of their brands. The financial influx from outside the league so thoroughly dwarfed her WNBA pay that the $76,000 salary began to resemble an official insult rather than a contract. Clark was not an employee the league was nurturing. She was a self-sustaining enterprise choosing to grace the league with her presence. The power dynamic had completely inverted. The WNBA's dependence on her far surpassed her need for the WNBA. Each new endorsement announcement served as another public affirmation of this colossal disparity. So why couldn't the league simply offer her more? This was the pervasive question, and its answer lies within the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. This master contract negotiated between the league and the players' union dictates everything from travel logistics to salary structures, including a stringent rookie wage scale. Clark's 4-year deal, totaling just over $338,000, was not open to negotiation. It was a predetermined figure established years before anyone could foresee a player of her transformative impact emerging. The current CBA, inked in 2020, was designed for gradual, steady growth, not for a league on the cusp of the most significant cultural moment in women's basketball history. Its architects had no framework for a phenomenon like Clark, as nothing of her magnitude had ever occurred. Consequently, the league found itself in a legal straitjacket, unable to simply cut her a larger check without breaching its agreement with the players' union and inviting widespread discord across the roster. A special deal for Clark would trigger demands for similar considerations from every other player, leading to immediate grievances from the union. Engelbert was aware of this, which partly explains her defensive media posture. She was attempting to navigate a problem for which she had no immediate solution, all while the entire nation watched her struggle to articulate it. Adding to the league office's discomfort was the palpable reality on the courts and in the arenas during this period. Clark's arrival initiated an instantaneous and immense financial boom. WNBA broadcast viewership for Indiana Fever games featuring Clark surged by 200 to 300% compared to the previous year. Arenas, long accustomed to being half empty, began selling out. Games were relocated to larger venues to meet unprecedented demand. A wave of new fans, previously unacquainted with the WNBA, flocked to watch. Sponsors poured in, and merchandise sales shattered records. Yet, the individual responsible for this entire economic renaissance earned $76,000. Every sold-out seat, every record-breaking television rating, every new sponsorship deal secured on the back of her popularity only underscored the inadequacy of her official paycheck. She was the driving force behind the league's economic transformation, yet she saw almost none of it reflected in her direct compensation. This presented the league with an unresolvable paradox, publicly celebrating the growth she generated while simultaneously enduring public humiliation over the chasm between her impact and her income. And no amount of discourse about charter flights was going to bridge that gap in the public consciousness. The tension wasn't confined to media coverage. Internally, the league environment grew increasingly complex and challenging to manage. Veteran players who had dedicated years to building the WNBA in relative obscurity suddenly found themselves relegated to supporting roles in someone else's narrative. Media attention gravitated almost exclusively to Clark, with broadcast coverage consistently focusing on her, even in games where other players delivered outstanding performances. This dynamic fostered a degree of resentment that began manifesting on the court. The heightened physicality directed at Clark became a distinct talking point, marked by hard fouls and cheap shots. These incidents often seemed less like standard competitive play, and more like deliberate messages sent to the burgeoning star about her place in the league's hierarchy. While some analysts dismissed it as typical welcome to the pros treatment, others perceived a sharper edge, interpreting it as veteran players' frustration at being marginalized within a league they had helped cultivate. The league faced another dilemma. Aggressively protecting Clark risked validating the veteran's resentment by appearing to grant her special treatment. Conversely, ignoring the physicality risked alienating the millions of new fans she attracted, who were watching intently. There was no easy answer, only conflicting pressures pulling in various directions, while Engelbert struggled to manage it all from an increasingly vulnerable position. This brings us to Adam Silver's involvement and why the commissioner reportedly sought his input. The NBA is the parent organization of the WNBA, with Silver overseeing both leagues. Clark's impact had grown to such a magnitude that her compensation was no longer merely an internal WNBA concern. It had evolved into a league-wide public relations crisis with significant financial ramifications. New investors were showing interest, expansion discussions were underway, and a new media rights deal, potentially worth hundreds of millions annually, quadrupling the league's previous television earnings, loomed on the horizon. All this leverage stemmed from a single source: the viewership numbers and mainstream credibility that Clark had generated. The optics of the league's biggest attraction, being paid like a part-time employee, were far from ideal when negotiating a landmark media deal. Engelbert needed the salary conversation managed, not out of a desire to underpay Clark, but because the CBA structure offered her no viable alternatives. Silver, with his broader influence and institutional authority, was uniquely positioned to help navigate the path forward. The true objective was the upcoming CBA negotiation. If the league could first secure a transformative media rights deal, the resulting revenue could finally support a salary structure that accurately reflected the market value. Every sold-out arena and record broadcast served as crucial data points for those negotiation discussions. A tangible solution was within reach, but attaining it required deftly managing the immediate chaos without allowing the entire situation to devolve into a PR catastrophe that would deter the very partners essential for sealing the deal. Here, the commissioner's strategy revealed its fundamental flaw. She was executing a long-term plan but communicating it poorly to the public. Each defensive appearance on cable news, every pivot to discussing charter flights, every refusal to plainly state that the system was broken and outline a path to fix it, undermined the long-term strategy by eroding public trust in real time. New WNBA fans, drawn in by Clark, witnessed the league's leadership fumbling one of the most straightforward public relations scenarios in recent sports history. These were not seasoned WNBA loyalists. They were newcomers, attracted by one player. Their initial impression was the commissioner on television, justifying a $76,000 salary for that player while the league reaped the financial benefits her popularity enabled. This was hardly an ideal introduction. Clark herself navigated the situation with a composure that highlighted the league's chaotic flailing. She performed, broke records, sold tickets, attracted cameras, and conducted herself with a professionalism that intensified the scrutiny surrounding her treatment, as she consistently did everything right while the institution around her visibly faltered. The eventual new CBA deal brought with it enhanced salaries and improved conditions. A significant portion of the leverage that facilitated this agreement originated from the numbers Clark generated during that initial surge of attention. The league negotiated from an unprecedented position of strength. The media rights discussion transitioned from a mere formality to a serious deliberation. Expansion became a tangible possibility, and investment flowed in from sources that had never before considered the WNBA seriously. All these developments trace back to one player and an arrival for which the league was completely unprepared. The commissioner's plea to Adam Silver was not a display of strength, but rather an admission that the situation had escalated beyond the WNBA's internal management capabilities. The confluence of the salary controversy, locker room tensions, the PR debacle, and the impending media rights negotiation created an overwhelming scenario, compelling the league's top executive to seek assistance. Whether she received the necessary support from those discussions remains a separate question. What is undeniable, however, is the league's handling of its greatest opportunity in decades, where its primary response was to emphasize charter flights. The existing system was designed for survival, not for a supernova. And when that supernova arrived, every structural flaw became glaringly apparent. The league was presented with the most impactful star in women's basketball history, and its initial public reaction was to explain why a $76,000 salary was perfectly acceptable. The commissioner required Adam Silver's intervention to rectify the situation, and this entire saga unfolded in plain sight. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments on whether you believe the league genuinely learned anything from this experience.